Welcome to What's in the Actual Mental Health. Hi!
Hello.
We're doing the big old video now.
It's very important that we're doing this.
Very important.
So that everyone can see Rebecca's
face. You're welcome is all I can say for that.
You're in for a joyous time.
It'll be something. It'll be something for the masses.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was like telling you a little bit about how I think we should talk about. So I went down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Which is weird because usually I don't have any time to watch TV, but for some reason, like I had time this week. So get ready.
Well, I think what that means is you were just avoiding something else.
Probably.
All the time.
I have to do.
You were just like, I'm gonna not.
Yeah, I was like, I don't want to do any of these 50 things. Yeah. That's 100%.
So I'm just gonna watch TV.
Yeah, and I did, and I went nuts.
Yeah.
So the first one I watched was Gabby Pito, I think is how you say her last name. I'm real sorry if I fucked that up. So she was the young lady that was like doing a van, like she was driving her van with her boyfriend across country doing like a van vlog. Mm-hmm. And she was like 22, very young, and he murdered her.
Oh.
Yeah, he killed her. And then the shitty thing is that his parents...
Your delivery sucks.
Yeah. Oh yeah, if you haven't watched it yet. Well, also the news, because it was like in the fucking news forever.
Also,
he murdered her. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And his parents 100% helped him cover it up. And then he killed himself.
Oh, dang.
Supposedly.
Okay.
But here's the weird thing is there's like this like fan base that doesn't think he's actually dead, because by the time they found him, it was in Florida and like the marshes. And so his body was like bones basically. And I don't know how true this is because I haven't done the research, so don't like come for me. But supposedly the person that identified him by his dental records was his uncle, who's a dentist. So that seems a little sus if that's actually what happened. Yeah. And But here's what's crappy about this part of the story too, is that one of the times while they were driving, so he killed her in Grand Teton. I just like to say Teton National Park. It's fun. Teton. And so, but while they were in Moab, Utah, some people saw a fight break out between them. And so one caller called and said he hit her. And then apparently like another caller called and said, no, she hit him. So when the cops get to the van, she's crying. She's very distraught. They pull her out. They talk to her. She's got a mark on her face. She's got a mark on her arm. He also has marks on him. She very much puts it on her of like, yeah, I get OCD. I'm really anxious. Like I was having a really hard time, And so what the police end up doing, because it was kind of hard for them to tell like who was the aggressor, which her parents were pissed about this. And I get it, hindsight 2020, sure. And also it's your kid, so You're like, what the hell? But while she's in the back of the cop car, she's like, can I get the phone to call my mom? Calls her mom and doesn't tell her the shit is hitting the fan and I'm losing my mind. So then they tell her, you can take the van and you go stay in the van for the night, and we're going to take him to a hotel and he can stay there and you guys cool off and leave each other alone. And I think the reason they had her stay with the van, A, the van was in her name, and B, it really does give her the best out because she has keys. Right. Like, you go. She doesn't. She gets back with him and then dies. Then he murders her. So that was the first one. Then I watched the Ruby Franke story. So this is the one where the mom so she lives in Utah, she's Mormon. She had a YouTube following, a huge YouTube following. So she had 6 kids. Her and her husband have 6 kiddos. They have this humongous following on YouTube. And as like it's going on and the kids are getting older, there's like a couple of times where people were like, I don't know how her parenting feels for me. Because like she would do things where she's like, the kids were being bad. So for 7 months, I made them sleep on the floor in the basement.
Night.
Yeah. Or I sent them to school without food and then wouldn't let them eat at school because they needed to be closer to God or something Mormon-y. Yeah. And then here's where it gets real fucked, because that's not the fucked part. Here it comes. So she gets involved, and this pisses me off personally as a therapist. So she gets involved with this woman, what was her last name? It's like a weird last name, who is like, at that time was kind of the Mormon therapist that kind of everybody went to. And she was very much anti-men and was like Men are very lustful. They all have porn addictions. You should stay away from them. Also, I might be possessed by the devil. And very much like very much gets Ruby like in on her shenanigans. And they end up having the therapist move in to Ruby's home to like help her rid herself of the devil. Mm-hmm. And in the meantime, the therapist convinces her that her husband is too lustful and her oldest son are too lustful to live in the home, and they should be kicked out. And everybody's just like, okay, we should go. And they go. A whole year goes by, okay? And the neighbors are noticing, like, there are times where the kids are there, and we're talking little, like, I think one of them was like 12. I think the other one was maybe 10, like too little to be home by themselves.
Right.
For months, okay? So the neighbors are noticing like there's little eyes like peeping out the window. So they call the cops. CPS doesn't do anything. They're like, well, did you notice abuse? Have you seen them be abused?
Right.
No, we didn't. And the neighbor said, I wish I would have lied and said like, yeah, I saw her like smack him across the face. Yeah.
Right.
So they don't investigate it. It goes on. Fast forward a few months later, so a full year that dad has been out of the home. No one's talking to him. No one's allowed to talk to him. There's an older daughter who's also out of the home. She's also tried calling the cops. The older son is out. So then I think he was 12-year-old boy, ding dong, onto the neighbor, like a neighbor. And the neighbor comes out and he's like, the kid on the video is very respectful and is like, I was wondering if you could do me like a favor. And the neighbor's like, okay. And he's like, can you take me to a police station?
Oh.
And the neighbor's like, what is happening? And he's like, you know what, sit down and let me talk to you. Well, when the little boy gets closer to him, he sees that he's got duct tape wrapped around his wrists and his ankles. And he's very, very malnourished.
I was gonna say he's probably like skinny.
So they call the cops. The cops come in. They go to the house. They find the sister there. Her head has been shaved. They thought it was a little boy at first. She's not saying anything. She's just like, absolutely not. Not going to do it. Little boy's like, I'm gonna tell you everything. Yeah. They call the dad and they're like, hey, we have your kids, come down here. He's 100% sure because by this time Ruby has figured out that the shit's hitting the fan and calls him and is like, the devil is in our son. I've been trying to get him out of our child, but now I don't know what he's saying to anyone else. So the husband, when he gets to the police station, he's like, okay, I'm ready to pick up my kids and take them home to me and my wife. And the cops are like, the fuck you are? And they're like telling him. And he's like, no. And literally says in the interview, I 100% thought the cops were like the wolf at the door trying to tear my family apart. So thought the cops were the bad guys in this story. Yeah. And they're like, can we show you pictures? And he's like, no. And they're like, I don't, like what the cops are just like, I don't even know like what to do.
What's happening here?
Right.
Like, they're like, are we being filmed?
Yeah, they are. They're like, is this a punk situation? Like, is he, what is going on here? So the moral of the story is that the therapist and her end up with like a ton of like child abuse charges. I think they're in prison right now.
Oh, thank God.
So then I got on to,
here we go.
I know. I'm giving you like very quick little cliff notes, follow them.
Oh,
Scammanda, who pretended to have cancer.
Yeah.
And decided that she was going to like scam the crap out of her church and got a ton of money for it, which also was very similar to apple cider vinegar that I also watched. I'm telling you, I had some time. And that one also, there were two stories. There was the girl who had cancer, logistically, in her arm. She had some kind of, I don't know, I think it was bone cancer. And she went on like this very well-known juice cleanse that also included like coffee enemas. Mm-hmm. And it was like in Tijuana, Mexico. But the lady that was running it, her father and her were German, I believe. And the other girl in the story, her name was Belle. She did not really have cancer, but completely said that she did, like multiple cancers. And then created this app called The Whole Pantry that like people were all about because it was like all these holistic, healthy foods to help you fight diseases and cancer. Uh-huh. And then it turns out she doesn't have any cancers at all. And then the other girl, literally she ends up dying because the cancer spread. And part of the program that she was with, they told her not to get scans for 6 to 8 months because the doctors would try really hard to like convince her to do things because that's what doctors do. And so she never got it scanned, and it ended up spreading from her arm into like the rest of her whole body. And she died at a very young age. So the reason I'm bringing these all up today,
Bringing it in, bringing
it in hard now, is like, first of all, so like from a therapeutic point, right? I'm like, what is it that all these shenanigans, as I would like to say, have that's like mental health wise, but also like health wise of like, I mean, I get it. Like, I want to also very much believe that there are poisonous things in our food, and
there are.
Yeah, and we're not always like the FDA, you know, is not like the most honest people who aren't able to be bought out and all the things. So my question, I guess, for us to talk about today is both like the mental health aspect of this kind of stuff, and also like the stuff like that you deal with of like the vitamins and all the things, and where is the line of like, why are these women doing this? Is it like a societal thing that like all this pressure is put on them? Is it just an attention thing? And why?
Yeah, that's a good one.
I know.
I feel like these are two very different things. But we're gonna
do both.
Yeah, we're gonna do like a mashup.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't fucking understand the Mormon mom who like just destroyed her children with a therapist. Like, I can't even.
Yeah.
There, in my opinion, there's definitely like pre-existing mental health conditions in that mother.
Right, it has to be.
Whether that's postpartum that like never really went away, there was some kind of something, right?
Because something's wrong.
Yeah, and maybe she felt like she was possessed. I mean, because you hear often, or I wouldn't say often, but you more recently you hear that the postpartum kind of like takes over your body,
right?
You know, and takes over like your mental health, and so it's like you do feel possessed. You do feel like you're not yourself. You feel, you know, like a shell of yourself or something like that. So I can kind of understand maybe where that started, but you said she had young children, and there is definitely a correlation with the postpartum kind of like lasting a long time, like years and years and years, if it doesn't get addressed, and then just turns in. I mean, we just had a guest a couple weeks ago who was talking about that, and it took her like 8 years to get back into her normal anything.
Right.
So maybe that could be something that played a part in that, and then rather than seeking help, whether that's like an actual like holistic help or even a, you know, Western medicine doctor or integrative or functional something, then she just kind of like seeks out this therapist that unfortunately she got shafted.
Well, and it's interesting too that, you know, 2 of the 4 stories, so half, both of them have like a religious, I don't know, pull to them as well, which I'm always curious about, like people who end up in cults, right? Because there's usually like this religious aspect to it. And, you know, and even with the Ruby Frankie, is like, even at the very end, her husband was very much still in love with her and was like, I miss her. Yeah, and you're just like watching it and you're like, you fucking, are you serious? Like and again, right, this is from the outside looking in, so, you know, tomato for tomato, but just to me, that's interesting that your kid was like starved to death. And then this is the thing, is that like she would have him in Utah outside jumping on the trampoline all day. Like he wasn't allowed to stop moving because she needed to get the devil out of him, or she wouldn't feed him because she didn't want to feed the devil. And you know that this is happening, and you're still very much like, I still love her. I'm divorcing her because she's going to be in there for a million years, but I miss her.
Maybe he misses the thought of who she like was. So like, you know, when like you're in an abusive relationship and you spend all of your time invested in this person, and you know, very toxically, you have like this trauma bond, and you're very toxically like in love and obsessed with them.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's necessarily like, I love you for who you are, but maybe who you were, or like the feelings you gave me.
Or who I thought you could be.
Right. Like, I'm in love with your potential. Because I can absolutely understand, or I have in the past been in like such a fucked up relationship,
right? And
then been like, but I still,
right, yeah,
because I was like mentally unstable,
yeah,
and like mentally like in like a really gross place in my life. So, I mean, can I say that like if my husband or even my ex-husband did anything to my child, would I still be like, I miss him? No, I don't think so now. I don't think so now. But,
Right.
But also, what kind of, manipulation or what kind of shit did she put him through long before any of this even came
Oh,
up?
a ton. Because I'll tell you one thing that I found really interesting is that he talked about how when they very first started dating, okay? And I think this fucking irritates me a lot because I see women do this, and I was one of these women that had like this list of what a man should be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was young. And at the time, I think that was just very well, like, this is what you're supposed to do. And then you realize, like, as you get older, that that's really not healthy.
It sets everyone else.
Yeah.
It sets everyone up for failure.
Right. Like, you're fucked. So what she did, though, so she was dating 8 men altogether. Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
uh-huh.
Getting after it. Whatever. No judgment. So she had in her closet this, like, big, long strip of paper. Okay. And it had all of the 8 men's name on the top. And then on the side, it was all the attributes of what she wanted in her husband. And then she would go and check off what each guy had in correlation with that. And so he studied that so that he could make himself into the guy that won her in the end. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And he admitted it on national TV, which is even
like
crazier.
Well, I mean, there you go. Just that alone just shows the codependence or the need for acceptance or whatever from him.
Yeah.
Not even from Crazy Ruby Frankie.
Yeah.
Like that is bizarre. Both things are bizarre. And the fact that he was like, oh, I'm too lustful, I'll move out. And just like fucking went with it.
Right. And the thing is like he wasn't like, he didn't have like a porn addiction.
Oh.
He didn't even have, she would convince these like men that she had in this men's group that they had these addictions and that they were lustful.
She isn't a therapist.
Yeah. And then she would tell all of them that as marriage, the whole purpose of marriage is to take these breaks where you move out for a while. It's very culty, which again is like what I was saying, like it's interesting that, and not to be a dick or anything, because I obviously am not Mormon, so I don't know, but any religion that's like, you can only be this and no one else can get invited feels culty to me. It's like, okay, that's interesting. I don't think that's what the Bible says. I mean, I don't read it every day, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't say only these ones.
It doesn't say that.
White blonde people. That's it though.
Yeah. It definitely. I mean, I think the idea, right? At least like Christianity, from my standpoint. My dad was a pastor. Drug dealer and felon
and pastor.
Yeah. So like. Flipped his life and like really changed everything. It literally changed our entire life.
Yeah.
Because he was in prison and all that. But is that it's inclusive and that everyone should be accepted, and so the exclusion, or very specific inclusion is not at all what the Bible.
Right. Exactly.
So,
but does it also? But I wonder is like for her and the Scamanda one is like, does it make it easier for them to convince people to do these things that outsiders would be like, that is the craziest thing, or that is like the last thing on the planet that I would do? Does having this very rigid religious, like, I don't know, box that you live in make you more susceptible, I guess, to
I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, which is sad. Because like you just said, like that's not the point of, most religions, that's not the point. It's not the point of like why you do it. So that's why I was saying, like, I don't know. I'm curious if like part of it is that they mental health issues.
Well, that's 100% yes.
Yeah.
Mental health issues. And
yeah.
Because it's like, what is it? Like birds of a feather flock with your
flock together.
And feathers and things. You know what I'm trying to say?
Wow.
You know what I mean, right?
Birds of a feather flock together.
Yeah, with your flocking birds.
Why did you
and your
make
feathers.
it so hard?
That's what it.
Like
that's
birds
what
of a feather, they hang out at the mall and then they do the things, and it's like I don't know where the fuck you're going. That took a left, and I don't know where we are now.
But you do know exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I was watching you go off the cliff with it.
Birds and flocks and feathers and leather or something.
And leather.
Don't forget.
Now they're in
leather.
S&M. They're S&M birds.
Right,
they're just
that's what I
whipping
mean.
each other.
Exactly, they're a bunch of dirty fucks. But my whole point is, a bunch of dirty fucks, they all flock together. So I mean, you tend to find,
That's why we're friends.
well, yes, but also I am a magnet for disease.
Yes.
But you do find like neurodivergence.
Yeah.
They spend time with other neurodivergents
Yeah.
because they feel seen and understood.
Right. Everyone else just thinks
Similarly,
you're weird.
Right. Well, you are weird, but
Very.
you're very strange.
Very weird.
Or you find people that understand and accept. And
Right.
so my maybe initial assumption or superficial assumption would be that these people are flocking with their leather feathers because they feel understood, and maybe they're all a little questionable, and so then they just kind of feed off of that.
Yeah.
And it can make them. It just kind of feeds into the toxicity.
Yeah.
Of it.
And do you think that, well, and I think part of it too is that like for both her, so for Ruby Frankie, and then also for Scamanda, and also for the other one, what was her name? Belle Gibson, they all very much, and I guess too, like even Gabby, like her whole thing was, I'm going to be social famous and I'm going to do this vlog and I'm going to make all this money. And like Ruby Frankie was making a fucking ton of money off of her kids. Like, I mean, a buttload of money. And same thing with like Belle Gibson. Like, she made a shit ton of money off her app, you know? And it's like, is it a money thing?
We are doing it wrong.
Yeah, we're fucking it up hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
need to make an app or something and YouTube it up or whatever.
We are YouTubing. That's why we're doing this.
Right. I actually
walked right into that
with your leather feathers.
I'm like picturing like a pigeon with like a little ball gag.
Oh God! And like a little black like G-string.
Yeah, exactly. Like a little whip.
Oh my God, that's fucking.
That would be great. I need that in a shirt.
We're gonna do that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Little ball gag.
Yeah.
Pigeon. Yeah.
So okay.
So
yes.
Is it like the money? Is it the media? Is it the need to be socially?
Well, again, I feel
famous?
like this is socially famous. I think I would be willing to bet there's some underlying rejection, need for acceptance or validation for all of them.
Yeah.
Including the husband with the Frankie girl.
Yeah.
Right? Like the need for that constant acceptance or validation, very likely having not gotten that from somebody super important or pivotal, you know, in their life.
Right.
Like their parents.
Yeah.
Or a big brother or whoever you're idolizing and you're not getting that acceptance from.
Yeah.
So I would say, if nothing else, it would make sense. That's intergenerational trauma.
It's my favorite.
Right? Because, my guess would be that their parents didn't get validation or whatever from their parents. And
Right.
it just kind of trickles down.
Yeah.
And now in this day and age with media and YouTube and all of the things and ways to be seen and get validated,
Right.
they just fed right into that. And then holy shit, you can make money from that also?
Right.
Like,
So are you
what?
going to get crazy now that we're recording?
What do you mean get crazy?
You're
I
right
hear
first.
because of my hair I'm mentally unstable, so.
Yeah,
So
that's the marker.
yeah, that's the only thing. Not that I was stable before and then dyed my hair. And then it was like, bam, the second her hair is pink, she's
Yeah,
fucking
and mine's
crazy.
like this, and so I'm very mentally stable.
I don't think that's 100%. I think that it's switched.
You wish, motherfucker.
My point being, I do feel like social media makes it easier to be mentally unstable.
Oh, fuck
and
yeah.
hide it.
Yeah.
Or like make money from it.
Right. Well, and especially when because that was the thing too, is that in this documentary, the family finally released like parts of the YouTube video that had never been released before, right? So it's like she's getting ready to record and like she's like, oh my God, we're so happy to have you here. And we just like love our family. And then her little girl's like climbing on the table, like fucking with something. And she's like, Jesus Christ, get off the table. And like sticks her hand on her kid's face and like drags her off the table. And her husband's holding the phone because he's like, okay, I'm going to cut that. And she's like, yeah, let's cut that. Oh, and you're like, oh.
Well, that's a great indication of what social media is really like, right? So
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the there's like a picture on social media or like a meme or something, and it's like this cute, like perfect family picture, and it's like moms be like like, get the fuck over here and take this fucking picture with me. And then the caption is like, it's like, don't say anything fucking stupid. And the caption is like, my world. You know? Like, oh, my life's the reason I breathe.
Yes.
That is literally, like, that's so true. I cannot tell you how many times I'm like, get that out of your fucking mouth.
Yeah. And then you're like, smile.
Yeah. I'm like, why are you eating the dog food? What are we doing here?
Like, put that down. And here we go.
Right. And then we're like, click.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, I'm a little more candid, and then I'm like, well, my kid ate the dog food, and then so I just took a picture of that and posted it. But you know, feeling like you have to with the social pressure of like having to kind of perform for that. I mean, you see it everywhere,
right?
I mean, and there's hundreds and hundreds of stories like that just like didn't make the news,
right?
That are
not as
people all over the fucking country, all over the world, like that.
Yeah.
But these just happen to be really famous.
Well, and remember, what was her name? Kate+8.
Oh yeah,
that bitch was crazy as fuck. She's definitely asking for the manager, like everywhere she goes. And those kids, like I think like half of them don't even talk to her anymore.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Yeah, no, she looks terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, and that was the thing too, is that it's like, also, you know, is it easier for people who are a little mentally not as sound to find their way into those kind of worlds where it just sucks you in? Where I feel like if you're a little bit more balanced, you're like,
or boundaries,
or you have somebody else in your life who's balanced.
Yeah,
you know,
right? And they don't even have to be balanced all the time. It's just they have to be balanced
when you aren't. Yeah, because there's been lots of times where my husband's
you're
like,
gonna say same.
Yeah, he's like, ooh, that's not the best idea. Like,
he's like, we're gonna have to switch spots right now. Where you're the fucking crazy one and I'm the stable one. And I'm like, that's really scary.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh, we're fucked. Yeah, but it's gonna work better. Yeah, exactly. And I think that was part of it too, is that in all of those stories, every single one of them had a spouse or a partner who was very unhealthy, very beta, like just, I'm just gonna do whatever. I'm gonna study your fucking, you know, list in your closet so that I'm the best man for you, even though that's not truly even who I am. Mm-hmm. And I think like you and I have talked very much about how, for both of us, we've been in relationships like that, which didn't work out at all. Because we'll just eat you alive.
Yeah, no, it's true.
And so I think the good thing is that, you know, for me especially, like my husband's very quick to be like, nope, we're not doing that. That's a terrible idea. Put that down. And I'm like, oh. And then he's right. And I'm like, okay. Because if I was like, you know what we should do? We should get in a van and drive across country and film it. He'd be like, the fuck? He's like, you get us lost everywhere you go. Like, we're not getting in a fucking...
We don't drive across country. We'll make to fucking Bernalillo. And then we're like...
And they'll be like, oh, my back hurts.
Yeah, I would say, no, if there's any kind of manual labor involved, Rebecca's out.
Definitely not going to... I'll be like, I have to get out of this. Is there... Also, I need somewhere with...
Actually, you would be like, you actually need to be the one to drive, even though this is my idea.
Yeah. But I'm also going to tell you how wrong you're doing it the whole way.
100%. Like, oh, you didn't stop
me. You're not letting me get snacky snacks.
Ooh.
It's because you don't love me. Yeah. Okay, so let me switch for a second here and ask you, okay, so let's talk about too for a second this holistic thing, right? Because I know I see you for a lot of vitamin stuff because I don't have my large intestine. Yeah, and I'm all fucked up and I can't hold anything in.
Right.
Just right out, just like that.
Well, you just don't absorb anything.
Nothing.
How are you gonna do it?
Also, I'm like just burning in the soul of my body all the time because I don't sweat, so nothing stays with me ever. But where do you think for people who get on like, because here's what I said. When I got really, really sick, when I got UC, I tried every diet you can think of. Mm-hmm. I switched to the one that was the fucking hardest, that to this day is the bane of my existence, was SCD, which is a simple carbohydrate diet. And you cannot eat anything that has more than 3 fucking ingredients in it. And you have to know explicitly like where those ingredients come from. So like if you're gonna eat a chicken, you have to know like that chicken was like given a back rub at 6 a.m. and then like spanked with like a fucking little bird whip or whatever, you know?
Leather feathers.
Right, and how much like seed they got or whatever. So basically all you could eat was water that was purified from the heavens. Mm-hmm. And that was it. And it was fucking horrible and I was miserable. And it never changed anything because I was so sick probably too also by that time. So where do you, for people who want to balance, like I want to believe my doctor, but I also don't believe my doctor.
Yeah, it's hard now just because like we were just talking about how you were talking about how therapy, like schools, you know, are just fucking banging people out.
Right.
just as quickly as they can to graduate them because we're so short.
Right.
Similarly with nurses
Yeah.
and nurse practitioners, and now primary care doctors, because PCP doctors are not they're super short in at least America, because it's exhausting and the system is super overwhelmed, and some doctors have like 5, 6, 7 month waiting lists just to get on or on board, and the insurance companies don't allow you to treat your patients in a manner that is therapeutic.
Right.
So much like, okay, so you come in and from an insurance standpoint, you come in and I accept your insurance and I, do your first initial intake or whatever, and I can bill. And that's like a very high reimbursement rate, right? Because I get to spend a lot of time with you and figure out who the fuck you are.
Yeah.
But you come in the next time and you're like, okay, I have multiple problems. If they're not kind of like related, I can't bill for both of those.
Right.
Which means it does not behoove me from a business standpoint to spend more than 15 minutes with you.
Which is
because
shitty.
if I do, I can only bill for those 15 minutes.
Right.
And so if I've spent 45 minutes with you, now I've lost out on another 2 15-minute increments to bill. And I'm just giving like round numbers, broad numbers or whatever. But pretty much, like when I was working in my rotations for my NP, I was with a doctor who would see 32 patients a day.
Fuck.
Yeah. Who the fuck has time? Like, there's zero chance that you are actually making any headway.
Yeah, you don't even know what you're doing.
Patients
There's like, hey, what's up?
Correct.
Fuck off. Here's a prescription. Go.
Right.
Oof.
And it was like that. We were like, boom, 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 boom.
Right.
And
So
I was
just
like,
quantity
I fucking
way over quality.
Well, that's, yeah.
Yeah.
And they get bonuses for how many patients you see. And and medical practices, like smaller family practices, when I was going to onboard, even with an integrative clinic, my first like actual big girl job offer as an NP was in an integrative practice, which was like a little bit of like Western medicine married with some of the stuff that we do now, hormones and things like that I do. And they were like, hey, this is like your base pay, like your base salary, and then you get paid based on how many patients you see, and there's bonuses, and you can make up to $25,000 more a year based on that.
What?
So if I come in at 100K, and then they're like, okay, well, every quarter you get paid X amount, that could be an extra $5,000 a quarter or $7,500 a quarter.
What?
Yeah.
That's gross.
And so it is gross. And so
Wow.
From just a Western medicine standpoint, unfortunately, and if you think about the economy now, unfortunately, we're just at a point where the more people you can treat and street,
right,
the more money you make. And when you're in an economy, and even still, I'm in like some nurse practitioner like boards, forums and whatnot on Facebook, and even still most of us have 2 jobs.
Wow.
Because it's not enough.
That's gross.
Yeah.
Wow.
So then you come to like, so that's a lot in my opinion. And they're doing the same for doctors. It's not just nurse practitioners, but a lot of that is falling on nurse practitioners because it takes us less time to get through school. And at least in full scope practice states, we can do the same a primary care doctor can.
Right, right.
Like in New Mexico, your care, and like if you come to me as your primary care, I can do everything that like a primary care physician can do. Not a specialty, right? Like
right.
Not like endocrinologist or oncologist. That's a whole different ballgame. But family practice, it's the exact same. And my education is a third of the cost.
Right. Right.
Now they get paid more than I do, which they should. They spent most of their life in school. But it's not as lucrative as going into a specialty for a doctor or an NP, really. But they don't have the time to gain the trust like they used to.
Right, right. Well, and it's interesting is that every hospital fucking experience I've ever had, it's always the nurses that I remember.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they spend more time with you and you see them more often, but also they spend more fucking time with you. Where the doctor's like, you good? Yeah, you're going to go home tomorrow. See you later. And that's kind of the last time you fucking see them.
That's all insurance will pay for.
That's crazy.
And even in like in an internal med like rotation, you're seeing fucking sometimes like 40 patients a day.
Jesus.
In like a 10-hour rotation.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's gross.
That's 4 patients an hour. You cannot spend more than 15 minutes with a patient or you're there for hours after.
So that makes sense why people, well, I guess that kind of balances out a little bit too of like where you're getting these doctors who very quickly are like, we're just going to do this, like we're going to do this surgery right now. We should do this. And you're like, I want to try some things first. And they're like, absolutely not. We should do the surgery. Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense in that way because...
Well, there are surgical centers that get kickbacks too for how many procedures they perform in a quarter.
That's fucking gross.
It is gross. Because surgeons are trying to cut.
Yeah, they want it hard. It's so funny. Every surgeon that ever came in to talk to me, they're like, can I take your colon? I'm like, can you back the fuck off my nuts? Like, Jesus.
Can you back the fuck off my colon?
My butthole does not want to leave with you. Stop touching me.
In that case, so that's kind of, and it's funny that you were bringing this up because my nurse and I were talking about this yesterday, but it puts people in an interesting position, right? Because people in general have kind of like lost faith in the healthcare system. Right. And so in your instance, you should have let them take your shit.
Yeah.
Initially.
Right.
But because of all your experiences, because you've been kind of passed around and missed and
right.
all of that, you put your fucking foot down and you were like, fuck you, you're not taking my shit.
Yeah.
And then you got really sick. You're
yeah.
like, I'm going to try all these other things. If you had kind of married the two, if in the very beginning, if you hadn't, well, you're also stubborn, but
just a little.
If you hadn't been like, I am going to, like, I am getting sick or I don't feel well or whatever, and I'm going to ignore it until a certain point, like, that's where the preventative medicine really comes in.
Yeah.
Pause, think about, like, hold that. And you're like, I tried all these diets, I did all these things. Were you seeing a therapist at that time?
Like a mental health therapist?
Yeah.
No.
Correct.
I'm like, no.
Were you working on any of your, like, trauma or aware of anything at that time?
No, because
not until you're the last person you talked to.
So when I got diagnosed, when I very first got diagnosed with UC was the very first time my GI at that time, the first one I had, because I had multiples, but she was one of the best ones, and she asked me if I had childhood trauma, and I was like, wow, that's none of your business, but it really was. And then I was 36, and I already had my social work degree, so I had already gone to college and done the things, and I was like, what is she talking about? And that was the very first time anybody had correlated for me health, trauma, all the things, and I was like, the fuck? Yeah.
So when you come into my clinic,
right,
and we talk about anything, you can come in because you saw a Facebook ad, because you're tired, because you can't lose weight, right. Whatever it is, everybody spends an hour with me. And we go over labs. We draw preliminary labs, what I call entry-level labs, which is something that, like, most Western medicine doctors pull, plus a couple micronutrient deficiencies or, markers and sex hormones and like multiple panels for your thyroid. And so I draw all of that, and then we talk about trauma. Do you see a therapist? Do you see a chiropractor? Are you exercising? What is your diet like? So it's fine if you have a Western medicine provider and you're on blood pressure meds and you're diabetic and you're on these things. I think there's a time and a place for all of that.
Yeah.
But there's so much more than just that.
Yeah.
So I think there's a place for both. I grew up in the ER, so, like, that's kind of where I was an ER nurse for 7 years, and I was, like, not about the treat 'em and treat 'em thing.
Yeah.
But we used to see fucking 160 patients in a 24-hour period in the ER.
Jesus.
And we were fucking dying.
Yeah.
Like, just all of us, like, doctors, nurse practitioners, the physician's assistants, the nurses, the paramedics. I mean, we were all just bang, boom, 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 boom. And then to go into family practice, and I did my family practice rotation, and I was like, that is fucking terrible.
Right. Yeah.
Like, no wonder people have lost faith in the healthcare system. And that's where the preventative side comes in. So my goal would be, at least in New Mexico, is to get to it beforehand. Same with childhood therapy. If you're doing therapy as a child ahead of time, maybe we'll go back to this. Why can I not remember that girl's name? Ruby Frankie? Yeah. The feathers and the leathers.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Maybe if somebody had got to him and her, the husband and the wife, ahead of time as a child,
right,
and gotten them to look at themselves, to not look for outside validation, to work on potentially she has borderline, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, if you had gotten an appropriate diagnoses ahead of time,
right,
preventatively,
could that have been different?
It would have 100% been different. I mean, there's no way in fucking hell it goes down that way.
Right. No. Well, and that's the thing.
In your case too.
Right.
If somebody had been like, oh, that poor little girl is fucking,
let's talk about this,
sitting in a room reading her book all day, every day, and being, what'd you say? You told me one time, or on the pod, that they used to put you in a room in school.
Yeah, and just let me read all day.
Yeah, because they were fascinated with how fucking, like, neurodivergent your brain was. But that's what I mean is preventatively.
Right.
If we can catch those things ahead of time.
Yeah.
Am I saying that's going to save the world and no one's going to have cancer and no, you should never do just the holistic route? No. It's your body at the end of the day. You do what you feel is right. But preventatively, if we're catching these things ahead of time, we don't get to the point where they're like the point of no return.
Right.
You don't get there.
Right. Well, it's even like the girl that passed away in the story with the juicing with the apple cider vinegar. Part of I think what fucked her, well, I know what fucked her, is that the Hirsch Institute is the name of the institute she was at. Whether that's still up and running, I don't fucking know. I didn't look. I'll look when we get done with this. I'm sure it probably is if I had to fucking put money on it. But what I think would have been more beneficial is if they would have told her in a certain amount of weeks you should get another scan. In a certain amount of months you should get another one. You know what I mean? Because then you're balancing it of like, yes, this makes me feel better because I'm eating healthier and that's great, but it's also cancer. And that doesn't mean that necessarily just because it works for one, it's going to work for another.
Right. 100%. Because it's genetic. So
right,
again,
exactly.
And that's in general. And so you're talking about like, oh, I tried every fucking diet there was known to man. And you're only addressing one piece.
Right.
But you didn't know any better. But you're like, oh, no, there's no way. I tried this, I tried that. It doesn't work for me. And people tell me all the time, oh, I've tried this and it doesn't work for me. I'm like, that's cool beans. But you also have, like, my biggest thing right now that I'm like, I've spent years, right? Like, where there's missing pieces of what I do. And I'm always trying to fill the gap. And like, okay, if I can get this to work, so I can fit this piece in, I can help more people like this. Is that underlying inflammation.
Right.
And I mean, ulcerative colitis is literally inflammation in your colon, and it's just fucking eating itself.
Yeah, it's attacking itself, thinking it's a foreign object. Because
correct.
It's like, this shouldn't be in here.
I've seen multiple diverticulitis patients, UC patients, Crohn's patients, and all of that is autoimmune.
Right.
All of that is your body attacking itself
because
of all the inflammation, and trauma gets locked in the body.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting. I had somebody asking me today about a kiddo who is very little, is like 2 years old, and is like ripping their hair out, like just in patches. And they were like, what is that? And I'm like, well, it's anxiety for one, but also at 2, there is something going on in the home. And I would be willing to bet intergenerationally, something got passed down. Right. And so and it's the same thing with parents who are like, I'm 100% sure my kid has ADHD. And I'm like, okay, hold on. And then we talk about like what traumatic things are happening in their life. And it doesn't mean that they don't necessarily have ADHD, but also that trauma. Right. And it's like being hyper vigilant because you think that T-Rex is going to walk through the door and eat your face off is very similar to being an ADHD kid who's hyper vigilant because you're interested in something. And it's hard to tell the two apart. Right. And so like you're saying, it's like if you don't look at also, like for me, we have a ton of autoimmunes in my family, a ton. So there's no fucking way.
Well, the fact that you don't sweat, we laugh about that all the time. But the fact that you don't sweat means you're locking toxins in your body.
Yeah, and they can't go anywhere. They're just like hanging out.
Right, and there's no one's ever been like, oh, that's fucking weird. Maybe we should help you detox that, so that your colon doesn't eat itself.
And then it did. Hard. Yeah. It was like real hard. Yeah, I was like, yummy.
It was like, we're actually like done.
Yeah.
We don't really want to be here anymore.
Yeah, we really don't like this habitation.
Yeah. Like, this fucking math test sucks.
Yeah, this is cool.
I'm ditching first period.
Yeah, I'm out, bitch. I don't want to do this anymore. But yeah, I think that's what, I think for me, it's like, also I think though too, is like, I tell people all the time, like, you do have to be autonomous, that you know your body better than anybody. And it's okay to say to your doctor, I want a second opinion, or I hear what you're saying, but, and when I look at the fact that we spent a year not taking my colon and still ended up in the same place, and that year led to a lot of like allergic reactions to medications, and I ended up with pancreatitis, and I ended up with septic shock, and I could have avoided all of that, right? But in the end, for me personally, doing it that route was what I needed to do to get to a place where taking my colon could be something that I was like, I laughed about it, I joked about it, I made it funny, instead of it being so detrimental, because I do think that changed the way I healed, but also I still ended up in the same fucking place that my very first GI doctor told me I would end up at. And it's funny because I can remember the very first time I was in the hospital, I think it was the very first medication they put me on, it just quit working. Like, it just was like, for a little while, for a couple of months, I was like, oh, I'm living my best life. And then one day it was just like, no, the fuck you're not. And I went back into the hospital, And I remember the anesthesiologist vividly, very nice guy, was standing there talking to me, and he was like, I've had my colon removed. And I was like, that sounds fucking terrible, you know? And he was like, I have a very normal life. Like, I still bike. And he was very, like, positive and kind. And I wish to this day I could remember his fucking name, because I would tell him, like, hey, you were right. And I'm sorry I kind of shit on it when you told me. But it's funny because I, like, think back to that a lot of, like, he was very much an advocate for it. I just wasn't able to hear it, you know? And I think, like, the girl with the cancer in her arm, she was young. She was, like, in her 20s. And I just... you know, and they wanted to cut her arm off. Like, they wanted to take it off by the shoulder. And she was like, well, the fuck you won't. And I get it, but I think it just would have been a better balance if she would have... because her mom in the movie or in the show also passes away from bowel cancer, which is what her grandmother died from.
Oh, yeah.
So clearly,
So that's funny that you say that, because I was going to say, if somebody now or at some point had been like, oh, you have cancer, like, take it off. Because I have had, like, just in my... like aunts, uncles, like mom, dad, aunt, uncle. I've had 10 people that have cancer. And
very close.
And some of them have died, my dad being one of them. And my aunt, 3 months later, I mean, and they were like fucking horrific deaths. It wasn't like, oh, they died peacefully in their sleep. The fuck they did? No, no, absolutely not. It was not quiet. It was not peaceful. It was not good. It was not easy, smooth, nothing like that. So somebody's like, you have cancer, like, whatever it is. Whatever it is. I don't care if you have to take both fucking legs. Like,
take it off. Which
well,
is
the thing too with, like, UC is that if you don't, you do run the risk of developing cancer.
And I still could, you know, because even when you have your entire large intestine removed, your small intestine, the whole thing's gone. Also, they take your appendix. Nobody tells you that, because your appendix is attached to your large intestine, but they don't tell you. They just rob you. It was like a year when I found out that they took that, and I was like, are we just like organ stealing now, you bitches? Like, was that on a piece of paper I signed? But no, they definitely take it.
That does not shock me at all.
I was so pissed. I was like, what if I wanted that in a jar, maybe somewhere? But they attach what is your small intestine now. They attach it to what's like the tiny bit that is left of your large intestine that's right above where your butt is. And so you could still get cancer, which is a real sounds like a real ripoff. And they take your appendix. Nobody tells you.
What I think is interesting, and I would just, I don't know, you're not really the one to say that you're wrong, but because
I'm not.
You have shared, like, that you feel like being wrong feels unsafe because of everything that you've been through, and whether that's childhood trauma, the way you were raised, all the things, right? So you get to a point where you're like, I'm sick, and I'm not going to do that. And someone's like, you need to have your colon removed, and immediately you're like, nope, don't want to, not going to do that. I wonder if someone had caught you ahead of time, early on, and been like, okay, these are going to be two paths that we're going to end up going down. If this, then that. If this, like, on this side, then that. Like, if you continue on the way you're doing and you don't fucking change your shit, you're going to lose your colon. Or we're preventative, right? Or we can start doing these things, decreasing inflammation, replacing this, working on your trauma, somatic release, like, maybe you would still have your colon.
Oh, definitely. Because I can tell you 1,000%. I was 36 when I got diagnosed, which is way past the age of most people that get diagnosed with UC. But probably back in, I think it was like 2008. So about 10 years before I got diagnosed, I had started to have really bad stomach issues. And they were like, you have ulcers. You need to take this medication, like take a shit ton of Tums. And then it got better, and no one else said anything else. And I just went about the rest of my life and got into really hectic, crazy jobs, and went into law enforcement, went into working with kids, you know. And so for those 10 years, and then boom, it hit. So yeah, 100% somebody could have gotten to that fucking way before and been like, this is gonna be real gross if you don't get your fucking life together.
Yeah, I mean, now I'm not tooting my own horn.
Bitches.
But if you came to me now, like 10 years ago, if it was 10 years ago, and you came to me and I was like, hey man, like, these are, like, are you working on your trauma? Are you doing this? Do you have any of that? Potentially it would have ended up differently. Just because
knowledge is power.
But they also, and they don't teach you that shit in
no,
medical school.
They don't. And I didn't learn, even now, Like I have conversations with people where I'm like, my young clients, especially because of you, I'm like, have you had somebody check your hormones? Like, I think you probably should have somebody, because nobody taught me that until I knew you. And then it was like, I never thought that those two things could go together, which is so dumb that they don't teach nurses that like your brain and your body go together. They don't teach therapists your brain and your body go together. And it's like,
well, there's a gut, there's a brain gut connection.
Right.
Like when you say like, oh my gosh, that gave me, what is it? Like butterflies in my stomach.
Mm-hmm.
That's an actual thing.
Right.
Like
right.
that's your brain is like, oh, and
yeah.
And then like that's a prime example of there's a gut brain connection.
Right.
Something like made you nervous. You thought, oh fuck, I'm nervous, and you felt it in your stomach.
And it triggers. Like, yeah, your vagus nerve is like drink, and it like all the things. Yeah.
Or like, oh my god, my I felt my heart drop.
Right.
I felt my stomach dropped, or I felt my heart in my throat.
Right.
Like,
or the lights came in like at a different, like it was like so much brighter all of a sudden. Yeah. Because your body's like in fight or flight.
Physical response.
Right. There's something happening.
Right. So, I feel like, and the other thing too is, and we're going to kind of tie this all back to mental health, is that there's serotonin and dopamine receptors in your gut.
Right.
And I mean, it can also directly be tied to your diet.
Which, by the way, they don't teach you about the serotonin and dopamine in your gut.
No.
In therapy, like classes.
Oh, I mean, why wouldn't they? They also don't teach you that I didn't learn that until like 2 years after I graduated nurse practitioner school.
Yeah.
So that is an associate. So that's a medical assistant certification, a 2-year associate's, and then I got my bachelor's. So that's now 4 years plus the year for medical. So that's 5 years. Plus my 2.5, almost 3 years in nurse practitioner, plus my trauma certification, plus I didn't learn that even in my my hormone certification.
Yeah.
So we're talking almost 10 years of education, and I didn't learn that until I fucking heard just somebody say it in from the doctor that I was training under, and she was like, yeah, there's this, and I was like,
I'm like, wait, what?
What are you talking about?
You're like, what is that?
And I was like, I need to learn all the things.
Yeah.
But even the way that you eat, right? So like, I know that, is it Mormons and there's certain things you can't eat?
I don't think it's Mormons. I think it's,
I know there's Muslims that you can't eat a certain way, and there's,
I don't know.
There might be Jehovah's Witness. Anyway, my point is, even in certain religions, there's certain
you
things
can't have soda.
and ways you can't eat. Yeah.
There's if you
or
can't,
caffeine or something.
You're not supposed to have caffeine. You're not supposed to have alcohol, and then they go like nuts with the like sodas or something like that, because they have like it's caffeine, because you're not supposed to have caffeine, but then they have like soda shops all over town like we do Starbucks. But anyway, sorry.
Yeah, well, sugar
causes
inflammation in your whole body, and can just feed into depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, bipolar, manic episodes, all that stuff, PTSD.
Right.
So any kind of like poor diet, or I'd imagine the more kids you have, the more expensive it is to feed them. So
the more crazy they make you.
Maybe you cut corners. Your kids are all, I mean, we were fucking poor, and I was eating fucking Snickers for dinner. My mom used to put Coke in my, Coca-Cola or Pepsi in my bottle.
Oh shit!
As a baby with milk, and it was like a milk, like a almost like a root beer float, like a Coke. I was like fucking 2 years old.
Holy shit, that's crazy.
Yeah, my teeth are fucking rotting out of my head.
Yeah, that's not good.
But I've had a sugar addiction since I was fucking born.
Yeah.
That's and sugar. They did a study that with rats, cocaine and sugar, 93% of the time. After being exposed to cocaine and sugar, the rats went for the sugar.
Yeah, which is so interesting and terrifying.
Right. Yeah. And there's more than 75 different types or names for sugar that we don't even know. Like honey, people are like, oh, that's a healthier option. No, it breaks down the exact same way.
Right.
In your body that sugar does.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. Complex carbs.
Right.
Or simple carbs.
I told you that it was only recently that I also learned that in literally every other country, they don't call it Alzheimer's or dementia. They call it diabetes type 3. And I was like, wait, what? And I was like, that is the fucking crazy. I had never, ever heard that. And I was like, oh, that's interesting.
When you think about it, people with seizures, right? People with seizure disorders, the first thing they do is they put you on keto. They put you on a keto diet because it's low carb.
Right.
And carbs break down into simple sugars.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's high protein, high healthy fats to help heal your brain and keep it from inflaming.
Right.
Because inflammation
Yeah.
causes seizures.
Yeah. Well, and that's why they're saying now they're going to probably classify Alzheimer's and dementia as an autoimmune.
Yeah, because your body's attacking itself.
Yeah, just it's eating your brain the same way it ate my colon.
And it's preventable.
Yeah, and that's the shitty thing too, is that's why I was saying, like, I get where, and this girl lived in Australia on the Gold Coast, and it fucking looks amazing. I'm like, yeah, if I could live in a hut off Australia where you're just like eating mangoes all fucking day, like I probably
fucking spiders the size of
yeah,
you.
they are. They're fucking gross.
No.
Yeah, they are, dude. They have the weirdest bugs there. It's like moving like alligators across the fucking,
No.
But yeah, I definitely, it makes sense that our, and RFK is all about it right now, right? And changing like all the shitty things that we have in our foods. And it's funny because my husband and I have been on this like thing where we're really trying to read labels. And I'm like, fuck, we've been here 45 minutes. We have 2 things in the cart that we can take home. And it sucks because it is. But also when you're poor and you don't have a lot of money, or you don't have a lot of education, you don't have a lot of time, you're pressed, you have kids, like all the things,
Yep.
You're going to look for the easier options because they're faster
options.
and they're cheaper, they're less expensive.
Well, especially now.
And you don't
fucking
know.
eggs are like $9 for a carton.
I know. I'm shaking the shit out of my chickens at home. Like, give me those eggs.
Well, I have little human chickens, and
Yeah,
they don't shit eggs the same.
No, they do not. Those are not going to get you.
No, but they won't stop eating, and I'm like, oh my god, fucking gross. I'm like, what is gonna, like, because they're both going through growth spurts. They kill me. They go through growth spurts, and they both eat like fucking grown men, and I'm like, oh my god, my husband already eats enough for a fucking army.
Yeah, I have a huge 9-year-old.
Right. Yeah. Well, and then we have the teenager. She eats all the time, and then my 2 little tiny chickens, and I'm like,
yeah. See, no,
I'm gonna have to sell
your eggs.
My eggs. Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna have to sell my eggs.
Cat's eggs are on sale. Okay, ladies and gentlemen.
Amazon.
Yeah, definitely from Bezos. You can get them on Prime.
Yeah. We'll overnight them.
I will overnight these. I'll drive them to you if you live here. Don't worry, I got you. Get them right in your sink. Yeah, really cool.
But with as expensive as things are getting, it's getting more and more difficult to be healthy.
Oh yeah.
And so I think it just kind of all feeds back into like trying to, like you said, like kind of break the intergenerational trauma, or even just be aware of it.
Right.
Like, even just start, like, if the movement could just be,
just look at
just know,
Yeah.
just be aware that this is a thing.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Just look at it and recognize, like, if, and I think that's the thing sometimes I'll tell people, it's like, where did you learn that? Like, where, like, why is
Why do
that
you do
something
that?
you keep doing?
Mhm.
And they're like, I don't know. Because we've always done it that way. And I'm like, cool, I hear you. Is that working though?
Mhm.
No.
Mhm.
Okay. Then this is how you end those kind of things, because if it's not working for you, then that's enough.
Right. Then you should just stop
doing
doing it.
Yeah. Just don't do that.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Like that, like, oh, why do you do that? I'm like, I don't know, we've just always done it that way.
Right.
I'm like, why?
Right. But what else could you do instead? Yeah. So, okay. So the moral of the story for our beautiful day today,
Or shenanigans.
our shenanigans, as we talk a ton of shit as we're about to get onto social media, which you forgot, as these things are pointing right at you.
I didn't forget. I was testing you
Yeah.
to see.
Yeah, because I'm the one with the fucking Alzheimer's in this group.
Yeah,
Way better fucking
You're gonna
memory.
die first.
Oh, for sure. Even though you're older, I don't have a colon, so I'm definitely going first. Yeah. I'm gonna have our voters, our watchers,
What
listeners.
about voters?
How about voters get in the polls?
Yeah.
Who lives older? Suck it.
Look very young.
You do. Pretty bird. Oh, yes. Okay, so the moral of the story for today is ease up on the fucking socials. I mean, watch our shit, though. Watch your own shit, though. And maybe a little bit of both. Medical, with a provider that you feel like you can trust. And that goes with therapy as well. Like, not all therapists are built the same. Not all of them shit glitter like I do. Just kidding, I really don't. But you really want to find the people, right, that fit you, both medically, mental health-wise, and also, like, exploring other options that may be beneficial to your healing that come from a nurse practitioner like yourself.
I would say just, like, really try to advocate for yourself. I think the biggest thing, too, is, like, it's hard for us to societally, like, oh, if you think about yourself, you put yourself first. It's selfish.
Right.
And there are certain things, you know, yes, you can be selfish, and don't get me wrong. Like, don't twist my shit. My point is, if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of other people.
Right.
Like, you can't take care of your kids. You can't be the best for your partner.
Right.
You can't, you know, you just can't. Right. You can't function. And you want to set an expectation. And I'm sorry, you want to set an example for your kids or people watching you that, like, it's okay to prioritize your health.
Right.
Like, I want my girls to be like, okay, I know I can take care of myself, and I want to be able to advocate for myself.
Yeah. I don't need to make a list of 8 men in my fucking closet. Ugh. It's interesting. All right. No judgment. A little bit.
That's a lie.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's just it's a little interesting, I guess. I don't know. It's not my world, so I don't fucking know. Okay, so with that said, watch your shit, everybody.
Watch your shit. But be proactive. Advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
At a young age.
Yeah. Maybe like take care of yourself and don't be stubborn. I was thinking that for you. Okay. Yeah, it's mostly yours.
You're the one that doesn't have a colon because you're stubborn.
It's not because I'm stubborn. It's because I wasn't left right. Yeah, because I'm stubborn. But yeah, all right. Well, thanks for the shenanigans today, and
good.
welcome. I'm very excited that you all get to see my face. Not really. And that's it. We still don't have a closing. We need to get our shit together.
Ta-da!
Wow. That's not it. No, that's as bad as the flock of feathers fuck each other or whatever. What's it you said?
Feather leather.
Feather leather.
I'm gonna get a shirt.
That's the closing from here on out. And feather leather.
I'm gonna do that.
Yeah. Elbow, elbow, wrist, wrist. Elbow, elbow, wrist, wrist. Okay, kids. We're out. Enjoy your life.